Good morning.
Good morning.
They are.
Okay, I'll call to order this hearing of November 13th, 2025 in the matter of Z0324-25. My name is Joe Turner. I'm the county's hearings officer. My role as the hearings officer is to conduct public hearings and make decisions about certain land use matters in Clackamas County. In making those decisions, I'm required to apply the county's existing laws. I'm not a policymaker. I don't have the authority to vary from or change the laws. If you think that the laws need to be changed, you can work with Planning Commission and Board of Commissioners to do that. But state law requires that this application be judged based on the laws in effect when the application was filed. As the hearings officer, I'm to provide an unbiased decision maker, and I believe I am unbiased with regard to the application before me today. I have not had any pre-hearing contact with any of the parties regarding the substance of the application, and I don't have any interest in the subject property or any of the surrounding properties. But anyone has the right to challenge my impartiality, to argue that I'm biased in one way or another, and you can do that when it's your opportunity to testify. Procedure will follow. I'll start by asking staff to summarize their staff report, copies of which are available on the county's website. Then the applicant will have the opportunity to present their proposal and respond to the staff report. Then anybody else who wants to say something about this application in support, in opposition, or with questions or concerns may do so. Once everyone's had an initial opportunity to testify, I will give staff and the applicant alone the opportunity to respond to the testimony that was offered. If those responses include any new evidence, I will give everyone a chance to respond to the new evidence. Otherwise, I'll close the public portion of the hearing and announce what I'm going to do without taking any additional testimony from the public. Generally, I will issue a written decision within about 2 weeks after the close of the public record. I'll send my decision to the county. The county will send it to parties of record. So anybody who testifies orally or in writing will be sure and receive a copy of my decision when it's issued. If you decide not to testify but want to get a copy of my decision, you can contact staff and they'll put you on the mailing list as well. Anyone with an interest in this application may offer relevant oral or written testimony, but testimony should be relevant to the applicable approval criteria, which are set out in the staff report. There is no arbitrary limit to how long you can testify. But as I said, this testimony should be relevant to the approval criteria. Also, please don't repeat testimony offered by yourself or earlier witnesses. This isn't a popularity contest. Whether everybody loves it or everybody hates it is not an issue I get to consider. The only issue before me is whether the application does or does not comply with the applicable approval criteria. Also, it's important that all parties make their best case to me. My decisions are subject to appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals, or LUBA, but LUBA generally will not allow new testimony and evidence on appeal. They'll decide any appeal based on the record before me. So if you feel it's important that myself or any future decision maker knows something about this application, you need to make sure it gets into the record before me. In order to preserve your right to appeal, you or someone expressly representing you must testify orally or in writing before the close of the record. And in order to raise an issue on appeal, someone must have raised that issue before me with enough specificity that people can understand what that issue is. The applicant wants to object to any conditions of approval on constitutional grounds, they must raise those issues before me as well. If anybody wants me to feels they need more time to prepare, you can ask me to hold the record open or continue the hearing. If I hold the record open, you'll have the opportunity to submit additional written testimony and evidence before you make a decision. If I continue the hearing, we can come back and do this again at a later date. But whether or not the hearing is continued or the record is held open for any other purpose, state law requires that I hold the record open for an additional week for the applicant alone to submit a final written argument without any new evidence. The applicant can waive that right if they choose, But if anybody else wants me to hold the record open for any other purpose or to continue the hearing, you must make that request before the close of the hearing today. When you testify, please begin by stating your name and full mailing address. Please spell your last name so I get it right. And if you represent someone else, please say so. That concludes my introduction. Staff will give us an overview of the technical, the online process, and then summarize their staff report. So whenever you're ready.
Excuse me, Mr. Turner.
Uh-huh.
We have two people showing up as Daniel Campion now.
Oh,
Can you hear me? I'm the neighbor.
oh, yeah, he's the neighbor. So he was driving and he asked me to send forward the
Yeah,
link, and I
it
didn't
automatically assumes he's the same person.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Okay.
know.
Can we get your name, sir, so she can change that one?
My name is Stuart, Stuart. My last name is Bennett, Bennett. I live next door but one, so I live
Okay.
at do you want the address?
Sure.
It's 44350 Southeast Warner, Warriner Road, Corbett, Oregon, 97019. I'm also a
Okay.
licensed clinical social worker.
Okay. We may ask you to repeat your address when you testify because it broke up a little there, but staff just wanted to change the title on the screen who's speaking. So thank you, sir.
Can I ask you to turn off my mic so you can't hear me because I'm driving and I'm about to go into the meets when I won't interrupt you, but just
Yeah, please.
Yes, I can mute you.
Right. We'll unmute you when it's your opportunity to testify if you want to. Anyway, go ahead, Ms. Lord.
Okay.
Ms. Reinhardt, is anything else? Any other issue? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Lord.
Am I sharing my PowerPoint all right
Yes.
here?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Great. Well, today, thank you, Mr. Turner. Today we are talking about land use application file number Z0324-25, which is for a conditional use permit application.
Ms. Lord, before you get into that, did you want to do the Zoom intro?
I will. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you.
Oh, it's right in front of me. I should have read your screen.
That's quite all right. Today's hearing is being recorded as required by law. The county will make every effort to post the recording on the county website later today. Panelists for today's hearing, which include the hearings officer, county staff, and the applicant, have both audio and video capability. Audience members' camera will not be turned on at any time. Audience members' microphones will be muted unless they wish to testify, in which case they will be called upon to do so by the county staff moderator. There is a designated time during the hearing when it will be open for testimony. The hearings officer will make it clear when this is. If you want to provide your testimony, you'll use the raise hand button. For people joining by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand as well. Staff will call upon you when it's time for you to provide your testimony. You'll unmute your microphone and then provide your name and mailing address when you begin. Once you've provided your testimony, you can lower your hand and your microphone will be muted once more. If the record is left open at the end of the hearing and you wish to submit additional written testimony, you can email that to me at mlord@clackamas.us, or you can mail it to the county at the County Planning and Zoning Division, 150 Beaver Creek Road, Oregon City, 97045. My email address is also available on the webpage where you found the link for today's Zoom hearing. Testimony must be received by 4 p.m. on the day the record closes. For people who testify and provide their mailing address, you'll receive a copy of the hearings officer's decision. If you do not wish to testify but would like to receive a copy of the decision, you must provide your email or standard mailing address to myself at mlord@clackamas.us or by entering it into the Zoom chat function during this hearing. And so with that, I've prepared a short presentation today regarding the application. So the property itself is located on Bull Run Road, and it is in the Timber Zoning District. The subject lot is just slightly under 80 acres in size, with majority of the structures and development really focused in on the northeast corner right up along Bull Run Road. The proposal that we are considering today is to operate an event venue for things like weddings out of an existing barn and a to-be-converted dwelling building. The request is for up to 24 events per year and a maximum of 150 people per event. The applicant proposes to have a mix of gravel and grass parking area that would include parking spaces for up to 55 vehicles. We have received public comment on this application at a very high level. I think the general themes of the comments so far have been with regards to whether the dwelling is owner occupied or applicant occupied, concerns with protecting a water resource on the property, the suitability or compatibility of the use, concerns with impacts to wildlife, as well as the safety of the road, Bull Run Road itself. For a number of reasons that have been detailed in the staff report that I wrote and entered into the record as exhibit number 1, staff has recommended a denial of the land use application. For some more housekeeping related items, the timeline of this application, we are on day 65 of the 150-day review timeline.
So when does the 150 days expire? Do we have a specific date?
I can do that math for you after.
Thanks. I don't want to have to grab my calendar, start counting
Yeah,
down.
let me get a calculator. I'll do that after for you.
Hey, yeah, at some point that would be great, but right now
Perfect.
not necessary.
Yeah. I've copied in the site plan that was submitted into the with the application from the applicant, just so we can get ourselves somewhat familiar with the site before I go through some of the review criteria that I thought was worth bringing up at the hearing. On the top of the site plan or north is Bull Run Road, and you can see with the red arrows I've added here in the northeast corner, there's an existing dwelling. I'll talk about that in a minute, but that particular dwelling will be used for some accessory event-related uses, like a getting ready space. And then at some point, the applicant they have received land use approval to replace that home and build a new home elsewhere on the site. So that won't be the quote dwelling forever, but that is a part of the application here. There is a restroom building that's highlighted kind of between the house and the barn, and then the barn itself is the primary event space. I've also indicated slightly to the west of these buildings up by the street is the location of the grass and gravel parking area. And towards the bottom of the site plan with a blue arrow, I've indicated the creek that the applicant had shown on their site plan. This is Deer Creek that runs through the property, which is what we call a medium type F stream. And so that has, I believe, a 70-foot buffer for any new development to go within that stream buffer area. Some photos that the applicant provided of the buildings that we just talked about, again, just for familiarizing ourselves with the project. On the top right of our screen is the quote farmhouse, and so that's the existing dwelling. And then the other two buildings that are on the picture on the lower left of our screen include the existing barn and then the existing detached restroom building. So again, to reiterate, there's no new construction of buildings being proposed with the application proposal at hand. It's just a proposal to use existing structures on site. The conditional use permit is subject to a wide variety of zoning and development ordinance standards or sections. For today's presentation, I won't go into detail about all of the relevant standards. I've just decided to speak today on a few particular standards that I think are worth having the discussion, or at least helping to frame the reasons for staff's recommendation of denial of the land use application. But a complete analysis of each of these relevant code sections is provided in the staff report that I wrote. So of the section 1203 of our zoning and development ordinance specifically relates to the conditional use permit review criteria. One of the review criteria is that you have to find that the characteristics of the subject property are suitable for the proposed use. To determine that, we can look at size, shape, location, topography, improvements, natural features, all different things to really determine, is this suitable or not, when we consider all these factors. Many considerations went into this particular review criteria. The first, I think, is location. The access to this property, really there are kind of two main ways to get here. One would be from the north through Corbett and I-84, and the other would be through Sandy, which takes you over this Bull Run Bridge, or Bull Run River Bridge, I think is its official name. There's some concern with accessing the property over the bridge. The bridge itself is nearing the end of its useful life. At this point, traffic has been reduced to one-way traffic only in order to limit the amount of weight and vehicle load on the bridge to help extend its life until it does get replaced. So there is some concern that due to its location, perhaps it's not the most suitable in that sense. When we look at natural features, Deer Creek, as I mentioned earlier, is a medium type F stream that does have a 70-foot protective buffer for any new construction on the property. I think that particular creek has been a point of concern for the neighbors, but the applicant isn't proposing to do any construction or do any building or do any development within that buffer area. So I think the presence of the creek isn't really a hindrance to this particular proposal, as it doesn't have any relationship to the event venue in the creek itself. On the flip side, though, when we look at wildlife and the elk population, this particular property is designated on the comprehensive plan map for a deer and elk winter range population. And in addition to that designation, certain neighbor comments did reference a lot of elk and wildlife, like deer activity in this area. So there's concern that perhaps noise, light, traffic, things of that nature would have a negative impact on that wildlife population. And then lastly, wanted to mention existence of improvements. I stated that on a previous slide, but all the structures that are being proposed, that are proposed to be used with the event venue, are already existing. Yes, they will have to go through upgrades to meet certain building code requirements for the type of use, but the applicant's requesting to use the existing structures rather than create new ones or build new ones in order to accommodate the use. So I think there's a mixed mash here of reasons why it might be suitable, reasons why the site isn't. But as I outlined in my staff report, I think the reasons why the site isn't suitable outweigh the reasons why perhaps it is. Another conditional use permit review criteria that we consider is whether the proposed use will alter the character of the surrounding area in a way that would substantially limit, impair, or preclude the use of surrounding properties for the primary uses allowed in that zoning district. One consideration here would be the visual character of the neighborhood. And again, I think the visual character of the neighborhood here would be substantially unchanged by the presence of an event venue. Certainly when you consider that these 1920 era structures or existing structures nonetheless on the property are going to be used for the event venue. There is some concern that I had with noise. I think the sound can travel as people come in and out of the barn to access this freestanding bathroom building. And so I will pause my scripted presentation to that sense right here and say that was one of the concerns I raised in the staff report and mentioned to the applicant, perhaps your noise study should address how are we going to address the noise concern of people going in and out of the barn to the bathroom. The applicant has submitted additional evidence to the record that I have not yet had a chance to review. So I'll say all of these presentation slides were created before, and so I just want to make sure that I'm clear. The applicant has submitted additional information that I haven't taken a look at. So potentially that noise study did address that, and I missed that. But nevertheless, that was one of the concerns that when we talk about altering the character, I think noise plays a really big role in that. And so I think the noise study really adequately demonstrated that inside the barn, there's no concern with the noise spilling onto the surrounding properties, but it was just a question mark that I had about how the noise is going to be impacting the properties surrounding this one when folks are coming to and from different buildings associated with the event center. Next is a conditional, a home occupation to host events criteria that we look at that specifically requires the buildings being used for the home occupation can be either the operator's dwelling or buildings normally associated with uses permitted in this timber zoning district. The farmhouse, that existing dwelling, has been approved to be replaced. And, once it does, I have a question as to whether the functionality of this building is really normally associated with uses permitted in the timber zone. While it's the operator's dwelling, I don't think there's any concern with meeting this particular criteria, but it's once it's no longer the operator's dwelling is where I really am unclear that it meets the mark. The proposed use or the intended use of this farmhouse building would be, a getting ready area, changing area, things for the wedding couple's family to have a time away from the major event space, things like that. And so I question whether that dressing building is something that would be normally associated with the uses in the timber zone. The roadway standards and the clear vision area. So section 1007 of our zoning code talk about road access and traffic safety and things like this. And I think recognizing that safety is of concern for the neighbors, our engineering division, the Clackamas County Development Engineering Division, reviewed this application very closely and reviewed the site very closely. And upon reviewing this project, they determined that the clear vision area requirements, which is when you're at the driveway of a property, if you look right and you look left, can you see it a safe and adequate distance in either direction? And so they found that with some minor clearing of vegetation on the applicant's property at their driveway, both east and west, the applicant will be able to see the necessary distance for those clear vision areas to be met. And so I think that's really important to note. They evaluate that based on the posted speed, or if there isn't a posted speed, the basic rule of the 55 mile per hour. And that's right out of the Clackamas roadway standards. A number of particular applicable review criteria I felt like in the application were perhaps missing sufficient evidence for me to make a finding that the standard was met. And some of them notably here is about outdoor lighting. Our standards are relatively clear, but of what is and isn't allowed, but it wasn't too clear what the applicant was proposing for outdoor lighting. I think existing lighting was proposed, but I wasn't so sure what that meant. So there's room for additional information, I felt like, in that sense, to really make a finding in support of whether or not the outdoor lighting was being met. Similarly, signs, I wasn't so clear on the sign proposal. There are pathways in our code for both permanent and temporary signs, but I just wasn't clear what was being asked and then whether it did comply or could comply with our zoning code. The grass parking lot surfacing, it wasn't clear to me which part of the parking lot was gravel, which part was grass, what ratio. Reason that might be more important is when we talk about grass as surfacing, we can allow grass for the parking lot surfacing for seasonal activity. But again, the application wasn't so clear on the events being seasonal, what season, when are the events happening, or what's the request at least to create this seasonal business. So I think some more information would have been helpful to really understand that proposal or that portion of this proposal. And then lastly, noise, I mentioned earlier, just a question mark surrounding what is the noise impact when we're coming to and from the event barn and the bathroom building throughout the duration of an event. Lastly, I suppose some housekeeping. I have received additional testimony that I just actually updated onto our website just minutes before our hearing started. So the website is up to date with all of the public comments I've received up until the start of this hearing. So that is available. And then I think of an important in particular note, I did receive yesterday a response from Clackamas Fire and in association with Sandy Fire districts, and they did receive approval from the county to allow their fire apparatus to cross the Bull Run Bridge. And so they received an exception to allow them to cross the bridge, which I think is really an important piece of fire protection and safety as it relates to this application that I wanted to share. And so with that, I'll leave my email on this slide for anybody who wanted to jot it down if they wanted to provide additional testimony or send me their address to receive a copy of the decision. But that's the conclusion of my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Okay, thank you. I do have some questions.
Of course.
You noted that the site's in the Deer and Elk Winter Range map area. If my understanding, these are primarily in the summer. If the applicant limited it to summer only, would that alter that issue? And what is winter? Is that defined as far as when they're using that range or expected to be?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm not as familiar if the term winter is defined or when that is, but I think it means, for the most part, my understanding is deer and elk, their migratory paths or their habitat areas when they're doing their breeding and they're doing their migration, things like that, is typically in fall. And so I don't know if our comprehensive plan specifically calls out which months are winter, but
Okay.
that would be the designation there, as I presume from fall into the winter months.
I don't know, but I've always assumed they're kind of going up and down elevation. As the snows come, they're
That's
going to
right.
lower elevation. So winter is lower, but that's no basis at all for that, just my assumption.
Yeah, and
But
that
that was just a
aligns, the
question.
designation is for properties under 3,000 feet in elevation. So I think that aligns with that very well.
Okay. Maybe that's where it came from. I just wanted to throw that out so anybody can
Yeah.
respond either during their testimony or during their open record. Excuse me, the replacement dwelling, the existing house, which will be replaced by a new house.
Yes.
The standard is whether the building is normally associated with the uses in the surrounding area, timber uses, not how it's used. So I think the term is replacement dwelling. No, that's the new resident.
It would be.
Whatever, the retained residence or retained structure, we'll call it that, is it's my understanding, again, with not really any basis, but when replace an existing dwelling in the timber or farm zone is replaced, they allowed the property owners allowed to retain that building, provided they take out any residential facilities. They can have a restroom, but they can't have kitchen facilities, and I think that's pretty much it. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
so that's generally correct. So the replacement dwelling standards require the homeowner to remove the structure, remove the structure, in this case is the dwelling that's being replaced. So they can remove it, they can demolish it, or they can convert it to an approved non-residential use. And so the
So
piece that
that's
you're
the issue, is
referencing is
whether use for this facility is an approved non-residential use.
exactly. Yeah. And so in that conversion, yes, we have folks take out the kitchen, um, convert any space from a bedroom. To do that type of conversion, folks get a building permit, and then our building inspectors go out and make sure that all of the things that make it a house have been removed or capped off. But that's ultimately the question, yes. Is
And
this
that
an approved non-residential use?
okay, what is a non-residential use defined anywhere in the building code or elsewhere? Uh,
I don't
Doubt
believe,
it,
I
or you
mean,
would have said so, but
yeah, our zoning and development ordinance, section 202, has definitions. We define residential uses and commercial uses and industrial uses. We don't have a definition for, quote, non-residential use.
okay. And one more in my notes. Oh, the driveway, I saw that they're going to pave the first 20 feet, but how wide is that first 20 feet of pavement? There was concern about whether two-way traffic will be able to go in and out at the same time.
Yeah, thank you. So the engineering division did review it, and they require a minimum width of 20 feet paved and 20-foot paved depth as well.
Okay.
Yes. And it's my understanding actually that the driveway itself is already paved, but that is just, nevertheless, that's still the requirement. So if it isn't now, that would still be the requirement.
Okay. Are there standards for maintenance of grass parking? There was concerns about hot exhaust causing a fire with taller grass. I thought from prior hearings with that issue that they were required to mow it to a minimum height or something, but that may be just what the applicant proposed that it.
There's nothing explicitly in our zoning code about that.
Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
In 1203-03B, that suitability of the site, you said it wasn't met. But you referred to a number of things. So it's noise and light, impacting wildlife, the remote and scenic location, and the Bull Run Bridge, and then speeding cars and horse and bike traffic. Those were the issues that I noted in your staff report. Is it all of those are the basis for the denial, or I'm not sure how remote? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think not all of these features I think are inherently make this project not suitable. I think it's the totality of all of them
Okay.
that do. So yeah, like, in there I've mentioned Deer Creek, and I think the fact that Deer Creek runs through this property is somewhat irrelevant in terms of presence of natural features.
Mhm.
Understanding it's a concern for the neighbors that it's there, but there's no connection to this application and the creek itself. So that to me is insignificant in terms of a natural feature making it either suitable or unsuitable, just as an example. So tried to at least reference some of the review criteria and the concern that we've heard from the neighbors, and at least create a roadmap of potential issues that I see relating to it, and whether I think it's makes the property unsuitable or suitable for the proposed use.
Okay. They propose to use a single driveway for the events. There are 3 now. I think it's a center driveway that's going to be used for events. Should there be a condition of approval to require that, just so that you have some more enforcement? I know it's proposed, but I thought it wouldn't hurt.
I think so, especially because the review of the vision triangles was completed for that particular driveway. So I think additional review would have been required if using other driveways were proposed.
In the prior decision regarding a different event facility, decision by hearings officer Cox, he limited the event to any defined events as anything more than 25 people on the property. Is a similar condition warranted here? That I hadn't seen that before. Nobody's raised that before, but it's an interesting issue. I thought I'd ask.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Do you mind repeating that one?
In hearings officer Cox's decision, there was a decision submitted as part of the record. I don't know exactly which one, but he imposed a condition of approval defining events as anything more than 25 people. So they're limited on the number and timing of events. So anytime more than 25 people are there, whether they're paying or not, whether they're commercial or relatives, it would be considered an event just for monitoring, ease of monitoring, I guess.
Sure.
And I'm wondering if similar condition is warranted in this case, in staff's opinion.
I hadn't given that much thought.
Okay. I just want to throw it out there for everybody to consider. The restroom building that's existing, some of the opposition testimony argued that there were limitations imposed on the approval of that restroom. Is that in the record somewhere? The approval of that restroom, are there specific limitations, or was it?
I'm not sure about limitations. I am aware of the statement of use that was filled out that explained what the intention of the building
So
was
when
going to be
they
used
got the
for.
permits, when they
Right.
applied, they said that's what they were going to use it for.
Right. But I'm not aware of any limitations, so that might just be a gap in my knowledge.
Okay. Assuming it was just part of their proposal when they proposed that restroom building, do those become part of their proposal, and is those limited? Do they have to get new approval, or is it? Can they use it? Again, this is just something to consider for everybody, but I wanted to throw that out.
Is the question, could it be then used for the
Yeah,
event?
is there any limitation on using it for this facility, for this event facility?
If approved, I would only recommend checking in with the building department to see if there are any building code upgrade or building code related items that the structure itself would need to have upgrades done to in order to meet some type of building code standard. But I only suggest it because I'm just not familiar enough with any building code standards that would apply, if any.
Okay. And the last one is more of an observation. Thousand Friends in their letter argued that the barn was approved as a non-exempt agricultural use, so it doesn't have to have a building permit. I think it clearly predates that, but even if it didn't, the ORS 215-760 that they cited, the Court of Appeals in Kupillis P. Sage and Social.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, 337
Yes.
ORAP 67, 2024 decision. Court of Appeals reversed Luba's decision on that and said that a agricultural building that was approved as an agricultural building can be converted to a non-agricultural use for this type of facility. So that, although they raised that issue, that decision was reversed on further appeal. So that's the only observations I had at this point. I see a raised hand from Beth Appa. Ms. Appa, if you have a question, keep your hand up. If you just want to testify, please lower your hand at this point. We'll call for testimony Anybody who wants to testify can raise their hand when it's time to testify. But if you just have a procedural question, and her hand's still up, can we unmute Ms. Appa? You'll need to, there we go.
Yes, now I'm unmuted. Sorry. Yes, it is a question. When said about the barn and the creek, Melissa, in one of your replies to an email, I was reading one of the first attachments on this.
Ms. Appa, I'm going to ask you to hold that question until you testify.
No. I'm just have my question because I do have a question. She said that needs to have a distance of at least 70 feet between the barn and the creek and the end of the barn. And I lived there for years. And the end of the barn
again, Ms. Appa, I understand your questioning, but I'll ask you to hold that question until you testify. I just want procedural questions at this point. So if you were having a technical issue or something, you can raise that issue when
my question is if they already checked if there is less than 70 feet between the end of the barn and the creek.
Okay.
That is
we'll
my
get
question.
into that question, but right now I'm going to limit it to just procedural issues. So if you could go ahead and click on the raise your hand button so it goes down right now when it's your opportunity to testify, we'll give you the chance, and everyone else. Is anything further from county staff? Okay.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Mr. Campion,
Yes.
can you state your name at the record and then go ahead and...
Yes, I'm Daniel Campion, the owner of 10510 Southeast Bull Run Road, Corbett, Oregon, 97019. And should I address some of the points?
Yeah. Now's your opportunity to present your proposal and respond to the issues that were raised by the public.
Yeah, I don't know if I probably can address some and maybe say some of the things I have on my heart. I listened to Melissa, and thank you for coming on board to this meeting, including the county staff, Mr. Turner, and all the neighbors that decided to show up. Thank you so much. I was after we received the staff report from Melissa, I had a follow-up, pretty detailed writings that address each points that actually Melissa was raising up, or they were raised up in a staff report. I just want to mention a few of them that I took notes, but I think you have access to that. Melissa mentioned that she sent it to you for review.
Yeah, I've read the staff report. I understand additional testimony and evidence was submitted recently.
And also,
I haven't had a chance to review that, but I will before I close the record, or before I make a decision.
Right, and also a follow-up that I submitted for that.
Yes.
I'd like to say about the location. We intentionally decided to use a very limited portion of the property, which is on the northeast of the property, where it's mostly flat. There is absolutely no encroaching into the south side of the property, where we have more, like where is mentioned, wildlife. So, but in almost 10 years that I've been here, I haven't seen any elk, and we are at the elevation of 1,500. There's a lot of coyotes and deer, but no elk. And also, as far as the noise, I addressed that in a noise study. Melissa, on page 2 of the report, it's saying that the barn, let me see here. Since you were saying that, or the staff saying that since the restrooms are located outside the event barn, it is reasonable to expect that the barn door will be open and closing door at each event. Amplified music from within the barn will most certainly spill out. So in the noise study on page 2, we did the noise study. There is a portion when they say barn condition. So we really trying to simulate the condition of an event. So I would say the test was conducted with some doors and windows intentionally left open to simulate actual event scenario. But despite of this measure sound levels dropped rapidly outside the barn, and with distance demonstrating the structure excellent sounding. And also I mentioned the doors are located towards the north of the barn, on the west, and towards the south. And the windows are on the west and the south. So if you go through the noise study, there is clearly, we try to simulate the scenario, like an event scenario when I did the study.
Which doors and windows were open? If you got north, west, and
we
south?
have on the west and the front was towards the north. The main was cracked, and I left one that actually would be more accessible. People will go through to access the bathrooms and stuff. Will be signs for that. And the ones in the back, they can go through the back. They can go through the back, which will be the north, the south side, or through the west side. Very not much instances to the north side, and it will be access to it. But even though I left the north side cracked as well for the study.
I'm sorry, Mr. Campion, can you repeat which doors would they use to access the restroom? I just pulled up the elevation drawing so I can see which doors we're talking about.
Yeah, let's see. If you look on the north side,
the north elevation, yeah, there's two big double doors there.
Yeah, there is double door, and then there is on the west side there is double doors and
two sets of double doors.
Yeah, in the back there is more doors. So there is on the west side there is one main that will be used for going in and out, but there is also double doors. And in the back there is also doors.
On the south?
Double doors, yeah. On the south, yes. And you can see that on the front.
Yeah. So what I'm sorry, were the doors on the west side open during this noise?
Yeah, and also I left the front door towards the bull run, which is the north side of the building.
Okay, but I didn't catch what you said. That the west side doors were open as well during the noise?
So I said some doors, a few doors, more than one. Yeah.
Okay.
So intentionally, I'll also left some windows up, which are on the west side and towards the south side open, so we simulate, just so on the west side, we also have this courtyard, and on the south side that has like a berm that also protects the noise to spill out, and towards the north side there is that berm going, and also there is a fence that blocks the noise as well. So it really drops the noise. I mean, within not even 100 feet, it goes through the ambient noise.
Mr. Campion, I'm looking at your site plan, the hand-drawn one, and it shows some dark lines to the west of the barn and to the south of the barn. Is that the berm? Can you describe where the berm is?
Yeah. Let me pull up the.
I could
I'm just trying to picture it. And
I could
You
share
could
my
describe it
screen if
in-
that would be
Oh,
helpful
you can
to
share
share the
that?
plan.
Yeah, please. If you
Okay,
can
and
share.
then we can.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Mhm.
So I
It's
think the
page
question.
24 of the application, if that's what is what I'm looking. There we go.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, that one that you have the hand on, and that's a berm, and also it wraps around towards the north side,
Mhm.
right there, and that's the fence with the gate. Yeah. Mhm.
Is what's the dark line to the south of the barn? Is that also a berm?
That is it's not a berm. It kind of shows where the road drives is goes, but
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure I understood what I was looking at.
okay, yeah. And then if you see on a south side towards, there's huge trees that also
Mhm.
blocks the noise very, very much.
Okay.
They're like cedar trees, and it really very enclosed. And also, I was as you have the plot site up. It shows that the whole operation or the whole proposal, it's really very close to the activity of the bull run, basically.
The Bull Run Road.
Yeah, and
Okay.
really when I did the study on a bull run road, the noise, trying to collect noise from the barn, but that will be ambient noise at line with the bull run. But when the cars will pass by, the dBs will raise much, like from 38, 40 to 70. Especially the motorcycle would go all the way up to 80s. But anyway, also I want to show the driveway, which is the driveway entry, which is completely asphalted, and it's 50 feet deep into the property, right? And it's wide. That I think the maximum was 35. So it's as wide as 35 feet and deep 50 feet. So literally you can get in, 2-3 cars, I would say at least, and go into the driveway, which is graveled and is 20 feet wide, enough. So here, from there, it's all the roads are graveled, and going in a parking lot. Yeah, there will be signs and drop off right there before close to the berm. And Melissa was mentioning about the winter, quote unquote, parking. We could, if we must, gravel the first part of that driveway of the parking lot. See how it goes like a straight, and then it goes on diagonal and straight again. So so that first part, I think will be sufficient for winter. If we have like a community Christmas party, or Thanksgiving, or some New Year, whatever, that's what I had in mind. And also on the right side towards the house, right there is some parking, and there is the concrete pad for ADA.
The parking down near the house, that will be gravel, is that correct?
Yeah. So we try to keep all the activities very close to within 100 some feet to the bull run, and not be invasive at all. So that road in and out, it's very accessible. It's not that long. It doesn't go around the barn. Doesn't go. So keep everything there. So that was my thought. And we have it in the barn, and also the courtyard. It's there, so we keep everything out. And by the way, all around the property towards the bowl run, there is a very dense private evergreen fence that cannot be seen, you know, from Bull Run, and you know, keeps growing and getting denser and denser. So that's for
Fence or a
privacy.
hedge?
It's a hedge, yeah.
Okay.
It's at least 12 feet tall, I would say, yeah. So that is, and I took.
Mr. Campion, on that issue, the hedge, the neighbors argued that those trees will have to be trimmed in order to, because of the overhead power lines. Do you have any response to that?
Oh yeah, I keep it constantly trimmed, and they are backed because when we had the pre meetings about this event, we were made aware of the standards and the code of the county, how we need like 610 feet to west to have clearance, like 14 and a half or something like that from the road, while you are in the driveway entry. So you have clear view, 600.
Oh, I see what you mean. Where you planted the hedge. Yes, you want to maintain the site.
So that hedge is completely out of the way, also to the east. Yeah, so it's very safe to come in and to go out because it respects the rules of the county. So that's all trimmed, and obviously I'm taking care of it basically, and whatever people that I'll have to pay to help me. But we've been doing that for years. And I like things to be clean and neat and not feel like they go out of hand, you know. So that's I like to be very respectful to the neighbors, and let me see. Also about the retaining structure, which we call the decommission of the property. Like Melissa was saying, we did have an approval for a new house, and the proposal was to decommission the old house. And the question of the staff was, let me pull this. You're gonna have this answer as well, because I addressed it by ZDO 80602C, use of the existing farmhouse after the decommission. So the staff concluded that once the replacement dwelling is completed and the existing farmhouse is decommissioned, it would not be building normal associated with uses permitted in a TBR zoning district. Or they questioned that. So what I answered under ZDO 80602C, a home occupation may operate in the operator's dwelling as other buildings normally associated with use permitted in the zone. So once we decommission as a residence in accordance with ZDO 4605B, the farmhouse will be repurposed for office, administrative, and coordination functions that support both the farm, the TBR agriculture use, and event operation. This maintains its association with permitted uses and ensures it continues to serve a supportive role directly related to the property's ongoing agricultural and home occupation activities. Repurposing dwelling and farm structures for such functions is common in rural areas and remains functionally tied to the property's agricultural and accessory operation. Therefore, the farm continues to qualify as a building consistent with ZDO 806 or 2C and the definition of accessory structure under ZDO 202, as its use will remain supportive and clear secondary to the primary farm and event operation. So yeah, so we'll be using it for office, for both, you know, for event and also for We have TBR, we have 40 acres timber, and we have livestock on a property, and we do need that to continue to be supportive to the TBR as well. Another.
Do you have any evidence that this type of use for use of a decommissioned residence for office and similar uses is common in the rural area?
Well,
I have your testimony that it is, but do you have any evidence to support that? Or let me back up. I understand there's new evidence in the record already. That's just has been submitted. I haven't had a chance to review it. I assume the public hasn't either. So I am going to hold the record open in this case to give everybody a chance to review that new evidence and respond to it. So if you wanted, you could provide some more evidence during the open record period.
When you say evidence, you mean if others did this, or
Exactly.
okay,
Other homes that former home for residential structures, let's put it that way, that have been decommissioned and replaced by another dwelling, and that are retained and used for offices, similar, basically uses similar to what you're proposing. That such use of those buildings is for that purpose is common in the timber zone or the rural area.
And also we, like with this event, we'll be also supporting this project, like Melissa was saying about the bridal or friends and stuff changing, whatever that in itself, because this property is 80 acres, it's a big property, and we have a lot of things to maintain, including roads, including forests, including hedges, including all the stuff. So that even the fact that we might be able to collect some finance for that will be supporting in support for the TBR as well. So they are intertwined, I would say, because we need a lot of maintenance on this. And
how does the need for maintenance relate to use of this structure?
I'm sorry?
How does the need for maintenance relate to the retention or use of this retained structure, this former residence?
If I understand what you're saying, I mean, even if the fact that we could generate some income with the house because it's related to also to the event.
The use of the former house for the event facility is not going to show that it's normally associated with timber uses, because that's not a permitted use in the timber zone. It's a conditional use only, the event facility. So how are other former residences that have been replaced, are those elsewhere in the timber zone in the rural area, are those used for offices, etc.? I understand you argued that there's need for maintenance on this 80-acre property. I understand that. How does that need for maintenance? How does that house support that maintenance? That former house.
So according to the, I can look into it, but as well.
Yeah. I just want to raise the issue so you can respond now or during the open record.
Oh, okay, yeah. But automatically it becomes one is decommissioned. It becomes a permitted structure, like a building,
I understand. This is the first time this issue has come up before me, so I'm trying to throw out my thoughts as they occur to me. So you have everybody has the chance to respond to, because you as the applicant have the burden of proof to show that 80602C is met.
Okay.
So the more evidence you can provide, the better support you have for your application.
Okay, thank you. And as far as I was preparing the lighting as well, I addressed in follow up of the staff report. So maybe you can look into that as well.
I will.
And I my goal, because I like to, I mean, I'm a simple man, and I like to maybe tell a little story how we came up with this idea to.
I'd rather focus on the approval criteria.
Okay.
Why you're
Okay.
doing this is interesting, but it's not really relevant to the issues before me. So I'd rather stick to those issues.
All right. So please review the follow up I wrote as well.
I
and
definitely will.
I would appreciate that. And thank you, Melissa, for I understand. I received the email that you already forwarded to Mr. Turner. Is that correct?
I've uploaded it all to the record so that Mr. Turner can review it all before his
Yeah, as soon as the
testimony.
hearing's over, I'll download it onto my computer so I can review it before I make a decision.
Okay.
But as
Okay.
I said, I'm going to hold the record open
Okay.
for everybody to review that evidence and submit new testimony and evidence in response. What I'm predisposed to do at this point is hold it open for a total of 3 weeks. Given the holidays, it'll be a little flexible there. I'll have specific dates, but I'll hold it open for a week for anybody
Mhm.
at this for anybody to submit new evidence and testimony on any issue. For a second week for anybody to submit new evidence and testimony in response to whatever was submitted during that first week. So no new issues can be raised during that second week. And then a final week for you, the applicant, to submit a final written argument without any
Okay.
new evidence. That you can waive if you want to. You can submit it early, but that's what I'm predisposed to do at this point. If anybody feels they need more time than that, they can ask me to request that during their opportunity to testify. But I wanted to have that out for everybody. Thank you, Mr. Campion. Anything else you want to add before I go on to the public? On your
No, that's
Okay.
that.
Mr. Bennett, I assume you want to testify in support. So we'll go to you next. And anybody else who wants to testify in support of the application, please raise your hand. If you want to testify in opposition or with questions or concerns, please hold off. We'll get to you next. Mr. Bennett is muted. I don't know if you need to unmute yourself or just staff need to unmute you. He is still muted.
I think, can you hear me now?
There we go. There we go. Yep.
Hi.
Yep, you're good.
First of all, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be present, and I'll be really quick with my comments.
Can you give us your name and address again,
yes,
because you broke up?
Yes, my name is Stuart, Stuart, last name Bennett, Bennett. Address 44350 Southeast Warriner, Warriner Road, Corbett. Did you hear all that?
Yep.
Okay, so my property is just a house down from one property removed from Mr. and Mrs. Campion's property. I met them when they originally were looking at that property to buy it, and they saw mine, and then they bought it. Couple things. One, it sounds like there's going to be more time that's going to be given to assess whether or not, so I'm not going to request more time. It sounds like that's going to happen. So the two issues that I could address, one is as far as the wildlife and the traffic on the bridge. At the end of the road, you may be familiar that Camp Howard is at the end of the road.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bennett. You're talking about wildlife or the bridge at this point?
Okay, we can address either one. Wildlife.
Okay, you just said you had one, the first issue. I just wanted to make sure which one we're going for.
Okay, so let's do wildlife. At the end of the road is Camp Howard. Camp Howard has a lot of traffic, has people who are using the facility for example, cross-country events for local high schools, 12-step retreats for men and women in recovery, and religious-related things because it's a Christian camp. There are deer and so forth that still use that property and that can be seen there. So I'm just wondering how I don't see how the use of the property as intended would in any way impede the activity of wildlife that we see. I've also lived here for 12 years. I've only seen elk in the area twice. And I've also seen elk in some very, very populated areas like near the Cannon Beach and so forth. They don't seem to be impeded by, things that we might, in this case, think that they're going to be impeded by. As far as the traffic on the bridge, Camp Howard accesses the bridge, and they have a lot of traffic. I don't think that Mr. Campion's business is going to in any way cause a problem for that bridge. As you probably know, that bridge is going to be decommissioned and a new bridge is going to be built quite soon. The third thing that I think is rather relevant is in the Sandy Museum, there's some historical record that this property was originally used for a very similar usage that the usage that Mr. Campion would like to use the property for. Historically, it was a meeting place for people in this local community to hold dances, to hold town meetings, and to have celebrations. That information about that is available at the Sandy Museum. I know people were engaged in that building, became engaged, and also had their weddings there. So historically, this is a return to the original use of that structure and that property, in keeping with what has been the use of it over a long, long period of time.
That historic use is interesting, but in order for it to be relevant to this, it would have to have continued and be allowed as a non-conforming use, because that use isn't permitted under the current zoning. Once it's stopped for a year,
but I'm sure
I appreciate the background, but I don't think it's relevant to the criteria.
Okay, and then and this is just as a side, and I have to get off to work, but I think it's important to note that these neighbors have taken a lot of time to restore that property in a way that is in keeping with this farm community. It's incredibly beautiful. His wife is an avid gardener. Before, there were only weeds around that house. Now throughout the property, there are cosmos and there are peonies and there are flowers and hydrangeas. It's a showplace at the moment. The way he restored that barn and respected the initial and original structure, I think he has just beautified the entire neighborhood and quite frankly increased everyone's property value, because you see that property in a way that you never saw it before. It was run down. I don't want to call anything a dump, but the way he's fixed it up, it looks like a park. It's incredibly beautiful. So thank you, Daniel, for what you've already done to this neighborhood. And I appreciate you as a neighbor. Also, last thing, if there's a collective, I believe the lady, and pardon me for not remembering your name, was saying that the denial was based on a collective of these issues. I think Mr. Campion deserves the opportunity to address each of those individually, because if one is the wildlife, then Camp Howard has the same issue, and somehow they've superseded that. If two is the traffic on the bridge, Camp Howard has the same issue, and they have somehow got around that, or they've shown that it's not an issue. So I think Mr. Campion has the right to be able to do the same thing in showing that his property is not in any way obstructing or impeding this neighborhood in the same way that the camp has just down the road.
Okay, the camp has been in existence for some time. It was presumably approved before.
Yeah.
So this is a new use. They have to show all those standards are met with this use. I understand your testimony that it's happening now, and it does reduce the impact potentially, but
okay, well, thank you very much again. I'm glad that I had the opportunity to weigh in, and thank you, Daniel, for being such a great neighbor.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Thank you so much.
Anybody who'd like to go first to testify in opposition or with questions or concerns, please raise your hand. Amy Cowles is my first one. It looks like you're unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep. There we go.
Hi, I'm sick, so I've completely lost my voice, so I'm
sorry. I sympathize.
Okay, so I sent this in the first thing this morning, but I thought I would read it too, because I just wanted to give Daniel or you the opportunity to respond. But I said, my name is Amy Cowles, and I live at 44330 Southeast Warner Road in Corbett. My last name is Cowles. My husband and I own the property that runs directly parallel to Daniel's property, and our driveway runs right next to the house at the front of his property. We're just about his closest neighbors. I would like to start
So
by
you're east of his property, is that correct?
yes, are we east of his property?
Okay.
Yes, we're east of it.
Okay.
I would like to start by saying that this is not personal, and I hope that we can maintain mutual respect with the Campions following this hearing. I strongly oppose Daniel's request to create an event venue at his property for numerous reasons. The Ames community is small and unincorporated. We are made up of mostly families, many of whom have lived in the area for generations. Most families in the area moved here for peace, quiet, privacy, and the unique lifestyle that living within timber provides. An event venue that brings in 150 people with 55 cars 24 weekends a year may not sound like a lot on paper, but to those of us who live rurally, it is significant. According to the US Census, the entire population of Corbett is 4,038. Corbett encompasses 182 square miles. On average, there are 22 people living per square mile. Daniel's proposed venue exists on 1/8 of a square mile, bringing 150 people to a fraction of a square mile when the town average is 22 people per square mile is significant. 150 people multiplied by 24 events equals 3,600 people. He plans to bring the equivalent of the population of our entire town into this small space, likely over the summer season. This is not an inconvenience or a minor nuisance. This is significant traffic that will drastically change the culture of the area. Daniel states that his barn is enclosed and near Bull Run as if this is a positive, but the area is not private, secluded, or enclosed from the rest of the neighbors, and it is located on the area of his property nearest most of his neighbors, front and center. The roads reaching Ames are treacherous. They have blind corners, minimal width, and are frequented by cyclists and horseback riders who often travel in the middle of the road due to the lack of shoulders. The Bull Run Bridge is in dire need of replacement. The bridge was built in 1894. This bridge shuts down at least annually for inspection due to its disrepair. The average bridge in good condition is expected only every 48 months. The Bull Run Bridge is also shut down periodically due to accidents or load concerns. It is limited to 12 tons and 1 lane of traffic due to its insufficiency. This bridge is the lifeline for our community. When it shuts down, we must take a 60-minute detour and there is no alternative route. While this bridge is being slotted to be replaced starting in 2027, that work is pending project funding. Between 2018 and 2022, the county submitted 7 grant applications for funding and they have yet to secure any money. Per Clackamas County engineers, this bridge will be deemed unsafe for travel within the next 5 to 10 years if funding is not secured. According to Clackamas County's website, emergency vehicles are permitted to cross this bridge, but large fire trucks are not. Even with approval to cross the bridge, the increased weight will stress the bridge with the heavy loads and potentially shorten the lifespan if they were to get approval, but according to Clackamas's website, certain trucks can, but the large trucks cannot. Statistically, events increase the need for emergency services in an area. Therefore, this venue would increase stress on the bridge unnecessarily or put our entire community at risk if the fire department must be diverted on a 60-minute detour to reach our home. In August of 2023, wildfire broke out in the Bull Run watershed. The watershed provides water for over 1 million people in the Portland area and is the main source for drinking water. At around 2,000 acres, this was a relatively small fire, but it caused a state of emergency due to its location. Living near the watershed, we saw the massive response of planes and hotshot crews. This fire was particularly challenging to fight due to the old growth forest and the limited ability to use fire retardant because of the water supply in close proximity. I say all this because the great majority of wildfires, 80 to 90%, are human started, and thousands of people coming to an event venue on the edge of Portland's most precious water resource seems irresponsible. It appears to me, by reading through the hearing documents, that Daniel does not respect local resources, his neighbors, or the rules of the county. He was fined $8,500 by DEQ for pollution to Deer Creek. In 2023, he permitted his barn under the pretense that it would not be used as a commercial building. Similarly, he did the same thing with a freestanding bathroom in 2022, stating it was for farm and personal use, which is required on property zoned timber. In 2021, he persistently asked me for access to the easement on my property that could access the rear of his property, explicitly stating he had no intent of setting up a venue. Taken together, this shows a pattern of bending the rules to benefit himself and his family. Under Oregon law, agricultural and forest accessory buildings are intended to support resource uses, not commercial event venues. Approving this conditional use permit would, in my view, undermine that intent. Per Oregon law, forest lands are described as lands that are suitable for commercial forest uses, including adjacent or nearby lands necessary to permit forest operations or practices, and other forested lands that maintain soil, air, water, and fish and wildlife resources. Daniel has demonstrated that he is unable or unwilling to protect the creek on his property, as evidenced by his DEQ fine. An event venue in this location directly conflicts with protecting water and wildlife resources. Peer-reviewed research relied on by the United States National Park Service concludes that large mammals, such as elk and black bears, frequently flee or avoid areas when exposed to human recreation noise. Introducing regular events with amplified sound and large groups of people into a currently quiet timber landscape is expected to displace deer, elk, bear, cougar, and bobcats from habitat they use today. During all seasons, especially the summer months, including on our property where we see wildlife nearly daily, I can provide photographic dated evidence if necessary of this wildlife. Winter range describes primary importance, not exclusive use. The protection applies throughout the year because wildlife rely on the same landscape for migration, bedding, foraging, and fawning and calving outside of winter. ODFW repeatedly states in habitat management plans that elk and deer show continued avoidance of disturbed sites even when the calendar season ends. Stress and displacement during any season reduce body condition going into the next winter. ODFW confirms that anthropogenic noise at even 40 to 60 decibels causes avoidance behaviors. A large part of my life involves caring for alpacas. We moved to a quiet property that could accommodate these animals, which are sensitive to noise. A recent review of alpaca welfare specifically recommends that noise and sudden vehicle movements should be avoided in alpaca husbandry. Introducing frequent loud events, amplified music, increased vehicle traffic, and sudden noises directly adjacent to our alpaca property would create stress. This venue would directly and negatively impact the health, behavior, and welfare of the animals I am responsible for. In conclusion, the purpose of timberland is to support forest practices, protect habitat, and maintain an environment where wildlife, forestry, and rural families can coexist. A commercial event venue does not support or complement that purpose and puts families and Oregon's resources at risk. And in response to Camp Howard is on nearly 300 acres at the very end of Warner Road, secluded, private, and invisible to the eye unless you go down that way. They also have a benefit to the greater population of serving underserved youth, men and women's retreats, camps for recovering addicts, opposed to this event venue, which would bring in traffic for solely and only the benefit of Daniel and his family monetarily, so that way they can maintain their property. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kells. Would you click on the, there you go. Thank you. Who was next, Ms. Renner? Did you keep track of who raised their hand next?
Next, I
Okay,
have
Mark.
Mark, followed by
Okay.
Bonnie Piercy.
Okay. Often when things, the order changes on my screen as people raise their hand. Mark,
Yeah.
looks like you're unmuted. Can I get your name and address?
Mark Pattee, MarkPattee, 10467 Southeast Bull Run Road, Sandy, Oregon, 97055. Okay. Our property is located to the west of the applicants and is zoned farm forest. We raise chickens for eggs and meat and turkeys for meat, as well as work a large garden. We sell eggs and some meat to our customers. We estimate that we produce more than half of our own food on our property. Noise affects poultry by increasing their anxiety and stress, which results in less production of eggs and slower growth. We already have traffic noise, especially on the weekends. We have aircraft noise from PDX, both coming and going. We have helicopters and general aviation and one pilot who practices aerobatic maneuvers over us. The events the applicants propose will result in additional noise on already noisy weekends throughout the growing season and substantially reduce the production of our flocks. This limits and impairs what we are able to produce on our property. The noise mitigation the applicant details will not have any substantial effects, as our property is actually at a higher elevation with a partial view of the applicant's property. The mature evergreens that the applicant references in his application are recently planted, mostly in the last 8 years, and average about 8 feet tall and are not dense enough to provide any real sound mitigation, especially in an upward direction. In addition, the dense stands of mature trees mostly reflect sound in my experience. The barn is actually located in the lowest elevation in the immediate neighborhood, with many surrounding properties somewhat higher, and this creates an amphitheater type effect. I've done audio mixing for a number of professional musicians, a large number of amateur musicians, in venues from small rooms, large auditoriums, outdoor concerts, and recording studios for about 30 years. I've also worked with professional audio system designers. The sound level study included in this application is, well, largely fiction. The applicant's sound level meter is a very inexpensive unit available on Amazon for $29. A professional sound level meter will generally run about $300 or more. A significant number of the reviews on Amazon mention the inability of this meter to register fast attack and decay sounds, like loud bass rhythms. Also, many reviews question the accuracy of this meter and its inability to calculate an average over time. The sound mitigation features mentioned in the application will have no effect on any properties at a higher elevation than the barn. We already have increased traffic on weekends with its associated noise. This venue operation will only increase the traffic noise. The noise coming from the event itself will only add to the overall noise and will alter the character of our farm and substantially limit our production. Our neighbor to the west also raises poultry and depends on their flock for income. We'd ask that you deny this application so as not to impact our farm operations. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Bonnie Piercy.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yep, thank you.
So
I
I'm
can hear
Bonnie
you.
Piercy. My name is Bonnie Piercy. My address is 10610 Southeast Bull Run Road. Thank you
Okay.
for allowing the public input on the proposed event venue on rural property zoned timber in Clackamas County. The plans the Campion submitted for converting the barn to an accessory building were done by the homeowner, not a licensed structural engineer. And even then, converting the barn to a commercial venue is not allowed. There are no other mentions in the plans of the second floor deck in the ag barn that span out 500 square feet or more. Is a second story deck allowed on an ag building or even an accessory building? This area is primarily managed for forest resource protection, wildlife habitat, and fire risk reduction. Allowing an additional event venue in this location would increase traffic on our minimally maintained Clackamas County roads, riddled with potholes, our failing Bull Run Bridge with severe weight restrictions, no fog lines, increased noise and light pollution, and other safety hazards that could arise with 150 guests and only 5 employees. Shouldn't that employee count include the caterers, the photographers, etc., since they're being
It does.
employed?
It does.
Not including them would leave an open number of additional cars and people over the 155 count. Clackamas County sheriffs have had to respond several times to the property for noise complaints, illegal weddings in the barn, shooting after dark, dead farm animals not properly disposed and buried, and burning during extreme fire danger restrictions. ODF had to respond in August during a burn ban due to extreme fire danger last year when chainsaws were being used late afternoon to cut down large trees directly behind the house. No permits were obtained. DEQ also issued notice to the Campions recently regarding open burning outside of the allowed days and times. On June 25th, 24, DEQ found the Campions caused pollution of the waters by stockpiling dirt in the buffer zone of Deer Creek, operating construction machinery, removing trees, vehicle tracks going in and out of the creek within the buffer zone, causing significant sediment, and the use of asphalt material that all caused pollution to Deer Creek. Brian Krexberg, DEQ employee, testified regarding several violations on the Campions property. His observations that he has discussed this case numerous times with Clackamas County. He stated Clackamas County code enforcement has been ineffective in protecting the stream buffers and water quality. Activities on this property appear to disregard the health of the riparian buffer and the land and water quality. Who will protect the wildlife and this community if Clackamas County has not been able to enforce the rules and regulations on this property previously? Daniel Campion told Clackamas County several times the farm restroom building was only for storage. During a hearing regarding several violations on June 9th, 2022, the Campions were told by the hearing officer, Carl Cox, the restroom was not allowed as a detached building as it was not a campground. Clackamas County later approved the plumbing and electrical just to get the property up to code. These farmhouse restrooms were not approved for commercial use. The Campions told Clackamas County the restrooms were only going to be used for family and friends. Neighbors have told Clackamas County since 2017 that the Campions' plan was to open a venue when the septic was then upgraded for future growth, with lines ran to the farmhouse restroom and the ag barn with hand-drawn maps submitted by Daniel Campion. He stated the lines were capped off and not in use, but that was proven to not be an honest statement either. Daniel Campion told code enforcement he was not having or planning for a wedding venue. Neighbors submitted pictures, videos, brochures, and YouTube posts to code enforcement of weddings held on the property and in the ag barn. But here we are. DEQ was not involved in previous buffer zone code enforcement complaints to Clackamas County, which the Campions refused inspections after a large pond was dug into Deer Creek over several months. The several large berms erected around the barn and property to block visibility from the road and neighbor properties of events and illegal activities. Applicants were notified by Clackamas County and instructed not to do construction or take out trees in the buffer. Yet the Campions continued to complete and start new projects in the buffer, including an additional ag building approximately 50 feet from the creek. And then neighbors got DEQ involved. 7-foot-tall arborvitae-like trees surround the borders of the property. There is no buffer of forest on the north, the east, and very few large trees on the southwest side of the barn. In the direction of my property, experts need to measure the distance as sound as the unrealistic charts, maps, and readings are not accurate submitted by the owner. The readings include loud vehicles and motorcycles. This is highly exaggerated. The map in the application only shows approximately 10 acres of the applicant's property, not the entire 79.6, nor does the map accurately show the adjacent properties as required by the conditional use application. My house is nowhere on any of the 43-page application. My property shares the entire west property line with applicant. Neither of the owners have ever lived on the property. ZDO 806.02A is not met. I included the sworn testimony of D. Campion and C. Campion that they owned and lived on the property for 16 years. Property was purchased in 2016. Brent and Caitlin Marsters registered a home occupancy business, Candio Candles with Oregon, with principal place of business, 10510 Southeast Bull Run Road, with registrations with Oregon done yearly from 2017 to 2022. The owner's son lived on the house from January 2023 through February 2025. At no time has Daniel and or Claudia lived or resided at said property. The replacement dwelling that planning has approved is also not mentioned as required. Owners have other home occupancies, 3 current and owned and operated by applicants at their actual current residence at 1527 Northeast 159th Court, Portland, Oregon, Multnomah County. I was unable to locate anything online for the adult foster care they own on the same block in Portland. Intermedical Supplies LLC, Claudia Campion LLC, Dainty and Moore LLC. This property in Clackamas County was not purchased for anything other than creating a commercial venue, only to benefit the owners at the expense of the community and wildlife. If Clackamas County feels obligated to approve this application, despite the above mentioned state laws, previous violations, unmet requirements of the ZDO process, please consider following conditions. I propose a max of 6 events per year with no more than 1 event held per calendar month. The surrounding community does not benefit and should not be burdened for the profit of a single landowner. I propose at least 2 of the 3 driveways be used for entry and exit. Applicant has 3 driveways on Bull Run Road. A full site and structural inspection. The barn needs real structural engineer plan before allowing 150 guests in a barn and on the deck. In review of the fire marshal document, shouldn't the ag barn have a fire alarm or added additional exits? Max guests should be lowered and max vehicles should also be lowered. With only 5 employees, no mention of max capacity in the ag barn. Thank you for allowing me to testify.
Thank you, ma'am. You and several other people, it appears, are reading their written testimony. I'd appreciate it if everyone wants to submit their written testimony during the open record. I've tried to take good notes, but it's much easier to read it after the hearing and make sure I address all of the concerns that were raised and consider those. Also, Ms. Percy, you cited a number of, it sounds like it's a number of documents, DEQ, various violations. If you want to submit those, I can consider them. But
Yes, they are submitted. They're attached.
Okay, great. Thank you. And you may have everybody may have already submitted their testimony or whatever this morning, but I haven't received that yet. I have reviewed everything in the record up until last week, but I didn't realize anything new had been submitted. But I will review it before I make a decision, as well as anything submitted during the open record. Thank you, Ms. Percy. If you'll go ahead and mute yourself, we'll go on to the next. Cindy Carlson is next. It looks like you're unmuted, but we are not hearing you yet. Ms. Carlson, can you unmute yourself and then mute yourself, unmute yourself, see if that helps?
Yeah.
There we go. Now we're hearing you.
Good morning. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our testimony. Hi, my name is Cindy Carlson. I live at 10331 Southeast Bull Run Road. My house is located directly across from Bull Run, approximately 307 feet from the proposed event at 10510 Southeast Bull Run Road. My driveway is across from the proposed entry and exit of this venue. My husband and I have lived on the property for 27 years. We are now retired and live here full-time, enjoying the quiet, rural lifestyle that drew us to this community. Daniel and Claudia Campion, the applicants, do not currently live and have never lived at 10510 Bull Run Road. Since receiving notice of this hearing, we have documented dates and times of their visits on this property. We also have installed cameras, knowing that the occupancy is a condition of this application. We strongly oppose any approval of this application. Over the 9 years that the Campions have owned the property, they have repeatedly failed to follow existing rules, regulations, and conditions with the land use. Their actions have shown a lack of consideration for neighboring residents and for the local wildlife that depends on this rural environment. It appears that this proposal is driven by financial gain rather than by consideration for the surrounding neighborhood or the environment. The project would benefit the applicants economically, while the negative impacts include the noise, traffic, and disruption to wildlife would burden the nearby residents and the community as a whole. The agricultural building should be used exclusively for farm, forest purposes, consistent with the intent of the zoning for this area. Using it for commercial event activity is not appropriate for this zone and would conflict with the purpose of preserving agricultural and forest land in Clackamas County. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carlson. On that last issue, whether they should be allowed in the timber zone, state law and the county code both do expressly allow this, subject to the criteria in the staff that are listed in the staff report. So whether it should be or not isn't an issue I get to consider. It is allowed, but whether it meets those criteria is the issue before me, and that's what I will consider.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carlson. Can you go ahead and mute yourself as well? Is there anybody else who'd like to say something about this application who's not had the opportunity to do so? Excuse me, if so, please raise your hand now. Not seeing any additional raised hands. Ms. Lord, anything further from the county?
I promised you a date of when
Yes.
the 150-day deadline was, and so I have that for you. 150 days from the day the application was deemed complete is February 6th.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anything else from the county at this point?
Not at this time.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Campion, it's your opportunity
Yes.
to respond.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I appreciate all the concerns that the neighbors brought up, and we did think about it. The concerns as far as noise, traffic, and so on and so forth. Although there is a lot of mentioning of stuff that is irrelevant, and some statements they're made there that potentially defamation, because for instance, even the DQ case was addressed, and DQ completely dropped all the charges because we're based on not truth, and there is no fine. We didn't pay 1 cent, but that's another thing. And they came on the property. We have from DQ, from county, and so on and so forth. There's all we have, even that we're blamed on. We were fully permitted from the county. The crossing that we did was
The
approved.
what that you did?
Sorry?
I'm sorry. You were fully permitted for what? I missed what that was.
It was a crossing that we installed at the county.
Oh, the stream crossing.
Stream crossing, yes.
Okay, thank you. That's what I missed.
Like culvert stream
Right.
crossing. Okay, so Mrs. Percy, while they're blaming us, they did so much work which was unpermitted, changing a big culvert on their streams before us, digging with 2 excavators.
That's really what the neighbors have done. Even if it's a violation, isn't relevant to the issue before me. So,
but anyway, that's I don't want to bring it up, but for us to be blamed for this, then they blame us that we polluted it. We completely follow the county rules. We hire a third-party company that is specialized in environment and replanting, and we follow according to the county plans, according to the counting approvals, and we install it. And for us to be blamed and made that we were irresponsible, it's just absolutely not nice. And this is the tactic that they've been using for forever, you know. And so what I'm trying to say, yeah, we have the letter from the DQ. They completely dropped. There is absolutely no 1 cent we pay. We're not guilty, and period. They erased even the case from the DQ side because it was based on, and they came and they inspect absolutely everything from one end to another, and walk through the creek, walk through and they look at it both from Clackamas County and also from Ben blasting and from the DEQ came and inspected and everything is fine. So we did have a wedding on our property. It was my son that when we came and bought this property, I had the privilege to restore the barn with my son that was 17 at the time. And he, as a reward for him, we worked 3 years on that as a father and son. I rewarded him to be able to marry on our property. it's beautiful. That was his dream, and I fulfilled that dream. So
And
yes,
at that time, the building was not an egg building.
yeah, and at that time, yeah, there was the building was not an egg building, and when we transfer to an approved building, yes, we do have engineering. We hire engineering company that did all this engineering. The county has all the permits, all the engineering report for the structural report. It's all by the county. It's all by permitted. All that happened. We really try to be transparent and walk and follow the county rules. Just because there's some people that anyhow. We appreciate that, and furthermore, we never intended to have like a commercial building. We live in this house. By the way, here's my house on the east side of our property. Mrs. Carlson, it's in the back. I can take my laptop and
That's okay.
show that, whatever. We never intended to have a commercial 150 people. So the impression is, I understand the concerns, 150 people, 24 times. I don't know if we ever gonna reach that but we took those are the extremes points that we chose to go with, because we don't want to deal with any complaints later. Okay, well, so we want to have this as a buffer for us, but we intend our vision is to make our property available for small, meaningful gatherings. That this would be alcohol-free, respect events that reflect the peaceful spirit of the land and the neighbor. Whether it's a wedding or birthday, family reunion, community harvest gathering, or just a simple Christmas evening, we want people to make good memories for the soul here in our place. Okay. I want to address this. We imagine moments like Christmas time in a barn, chatting with friends, neighbors, sipping on hot chocolate, while children, grandkids.
That's great, Mr. Campion. But again, I'd like to focus on the criteria.
Yeah, and this is our idea of this place. It's not like we want to do commercial heavy duty. We want to share this place, beautiful place, with others. And this, when we contact the county, they suggested and they recommend that we need to follow this procedure, home occupancy, and we want to do it by the book. We want to share our beauty of our property and the barn with people that appreciate this. And it is very expensive to follow, and more than I expected, more formal. But we decided to go with the county rules, and because this is our vision for the community, for people to come and enjoy this. Just in a time, hate, bitterness, fear, division. It's all we want to have this place to
I understand, Mr. Campion, but again, if we can focus on the criteria.
Yeah. So the criteria, it is, and I understand the concerns of some of the neighbors. It is that we're gonna have 150 people, day in and out. I don't think that is the intent. Might happen once in a while. But I don't know if we're going to reach the 24 a year, But on the long term, on the long run, our idea is to actually go into a nonprofit organization and have this community activities allow on our property, educational, conservation.
But at this point, you are proposing a commercial event facility, and that's what I have to consider.
Yeah, and well, that's how the county.
Yeah.
So, but in my mind, that was it. So I guess we have to go through with this, and then it's fair for the neighbors to interpret it like that. So, in that sense and have some concerns. But this is what I have in mind, and it is to benefit the community and other people. It's not like one lady was mentioning, it's for our gain. We want to bring
It
the
doesn't matter
community
whether it's
together.
for your gain or not.
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
an allowed use if it meets the
Yes.
criteria.
Yes. I mentioned that the barn was engineered, and it's the county has all those permits, and I
understand.
don't know. And there's
You've raised that
a
issue. You've addressed that. I understand. So.
Yeah. There is a paper trail for all the concerns of the neighbors and the permits and the barn and everything. It's there. So I think we are, everything we did was permitted and in line with the county. And if we had anything going out, we wanted to bring the inspectors, and everything was brought up to standards and to the county codes.
Mr. Campion?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, make sure I got your name right. Do you intend to use the outside balcony on the south end of the barn for the events? I didn't see that. If you do, that wasn't included in your noise study. So if people are out there talking, chatting, laughing, whatever, that's going to generate some noise. It's to the south but also to the east and west. So I just wanted to ask that if you're planning that, can you address that? How that could impact or how it wouldn't?
Yeah,
noise issues.
We didn't think of that, but I can extend on a noise test with that.
Okay.
But naturally, on let's say there's some people, hanging on that balcony, it will be completely barraged towards the north side.
South.
To the north side, because the building, in a way, and we have those big trees also in front of the barn that are, I don't know, 100 feet.
So the noise is more of a concern to the south, east, and west.
So
I don't know, but I just wanted you to give you the opportunity to address that question.
Okay. You wanted me to? Okay,
you can do that during the open record if you want. If you're not going to use the balcony, that's fine. That would make that issue go away. I just impose it. If I approved it, I'd impose a condition of approval to that effect. If you're going to want the opportunity to use the balcony, that's fine too, as long as you demonstrate that it's consistent with the criteria. It just that issue wasn't addressed. Also, am I correct? You're going to have the ceremony potentially outside, for a wedding or something. Will there be outside gatherings? Will there be amplified sound with that portion of the event?
We don't intend.
I think you addressed it in your noise study, but I can't recall exactly.
Yeah, it was additional information on page. Yeah, it's there.
You don't have to give me a specific page. I'll look at it. I just was recalling that as I was saying that I thought I had seen it, but I wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we were thinking in a courtyard. Don't intend to use amplification, although I did simulate noise, so up to 75, 80 dB.
Outside?
I'm sorry?
With 75 to 80 dB outside the barn? Where the events would be taking place?
Yeah, and then I did a study walking, in increments to see where actually drops to the ambient noise. So it was way before I reached the property boundaries. In fact, if I did it in a courtyard, if I go beyond the berm, drops automatically.
And where is the courtyard in relation to the barn? Is that to the west?
It's to the west, yeah. The one that remember you had the hand on the barn. Enclosed by the barn.
Yeah. Okay.
And it goes to the south too.
Okay. The last question I had. The first person to testify had a question about the distance from the barn to the stream, if that has been confirmed. If you want to address that during the open record, if you can provide some measurements exactly how far it is. So if it's, I think it's 70 feet is the buffer. So if it's 73 feet, or if it's 110 feet, you know, it would give me some, if you just provide that information during the open record, I'd appreciate it. But we can
Me?
address that. Yes.
Yeah, that's at least 150 feet. Yeah.
Okay. If you could give me some evidence, you know, aerial photo measurement, something to demonstrate that, or
Yeah.
photo of a tape measure, something. However you could demonstrate that, because that question was raised. If it's a long distance, it's not an issue. If it's a short,
Right.
if it's very close to 70 feet, it may need more review. So those are the only questions I had. Anything else you want to add before I close the hearing?
Also, it can be measured on Google Earth as well, but we can provide them.
Yeah, if you could provide the evidence, that I'd appreciate it.
Close to 150 feet. So.
Okay. Ms. Cowles, I see you have your hand raised. Do you have a procedural question? Because I'm not going to take additional testimony at this point. I will allow additional written testimony during the open record, but I'm not going to take any additional testimony at this point. Ms. Cowles still has her hand raised. Can we unmute Ms. Cowles? You'll need it. There we go.
I do have a question. Does anybody come verify these studies, like the sound studies? I know people are raising a lot of concern that maybe they weren't done.
The issue is what the county doesn't do noise studies itself. The code says that can require a noise study. It doesn't specify what that, who has to do that, any standards for how it's done. It's the applicant's burden of proof. It is evidence, that their analysis evidence. There's a lot of questions and dispute about the accuracy of that analysis. The applicant can address that. If the neighbors want to provide additional support for why it's not accurate, they can do that. But the county is not going to go out and measure things. But if there are, the county does enforce, you know, they will be required to comply with the conditions of approval, which will require that they comply with the approval criteria, the noise limits, the number of people per event that they propose, etc. So if those are violated, the county will address that through its enforcement process, which is a complaint-driven process. But those will be enforced. But the county doesn't go out and do additional studies generally.
Does he have to be a certain distance? Like, does the venue have to be a certain distance from other property lines, or like what?
No.
It doesn't. Okay.
No. There's no setback requirements other than the standard setbacks for the timber zone, and that only applies to structures. But the noise study is the primary issue. The primary impact is noise, and that decreases with distance. But so a larger property and greater setbacks reduces that. But there are other ways to address that. There have been similar facilities proposed on much smaller properties, but proposed exclusively inside fully enclosed buildings. So that's an issue I will consider, as whether those criteria met.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Campion, anything you wanted to add? I see your hands raised.
Yeah, I would just want to mention, as far as the sound, I'm myself an engineer with a master's degree, and did the rifle scopes design and designed silencer for rifles. And I do have, and also a musician. My son is doing open concerts as a sound guy. I'm very familiar with this sound test, and you know, the silencer has to meet certain criteria, and I did this in my profession as well, so I'm quite familiar with the equipment and what is professional equipment, or what it can be close to that. And in a test, sound test also indicates the device that I've been using and what is the tolerance accept. That's very important, because that is the accuracy of the unit. And so thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. With that, I'm going to close the hearing. I'm going to hold the record open. Let me grab my calendar. I'll give us some specific dates. So next week, it's not a holiday, so that's not an issue. So I'm going to hold the record open for 1 week until November 20th for anybody to submit new testimony and evidence regarding any issues. Anything anybody wants to submit has to be physically received by the county by 3 o'clock. Is that correct? 4 o'clock. By 4 o'clock p.m. on November 20th. I'll hold it open for slightly more than an additional week. Well, given the holiday, I'm going to hold I'm going to revise that. I'm going to hold the initial open record period till the 24th of November to give everybody, since that's the big, most of the evidence I expect to come in during that first week. So I want to give people time since we have to do Monday to avoid the holiday. So I will hold the record up for the first period until November 24th, again at 4 p.m. Any new testimony and evidence has to be received by the county by 4 o'clock. You can send it to Ms. Lord at her email. You can deliver it to the county. You can mail it to the county. However you get it there, it has to be physically there by 4 p.m. on the 24th of November. I'll hold it open for an additional week until December 1st for anybody to respond to whatever was submitted during the first period. No new evidence, no new issues may be raised. New evidence may be submitted in response to whatever was submitted during that first period, but no new issues may be raised during that second period. I'll hold it open for a final week until December 8th for the applicant alone to submit a final written argument without any new evidence. The applicant can waive that right if they choose at the end of the first period, or you can submit your final argument earlier. I will close the record upon receipt of whatever you want to submit. Just include in your, if you submit it early, say, go ahead and close the record at that point. And I will close the record at that point. I will try and get my decision out by within 2 weeks after the close of the record by December 22nd. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but given we're getting close to the holiday there, maybe take me a little bit longer. I will get it out as soon as possible. I will send my decision to the county. The county will send it to parties of record. So anybody who has testified orally or in writing, or who does so during the open record period, will be a party of record and will receive a copy of my decision when it's issued. If you haven't testified and choose not to, you can just ask staff to add you to the mailing list. That concludes our hearing. Thank you all. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everyone.